Here's 5 unpopular things that I did to become a successful business owner. And I'm going to bust through these like so fast. You're not even going to believe it. Number 1, what is it? I opened up a brick and mortar location in a town of 500 people. I know that's not popular to do. I know that people think that you need to be in a big city or like inside of a mall or right in the downtown or something like that. No, actually, you don't. Think about this. Consider what you want your actual life to look like. We live in a small town, in a town of 500 people. Did I want to move to Fargo? Did I want to move to the cities to open up my shop? No, I did not. So what were my choices? I could open up a shop here, or I could open up a shop in a town maybe like 10 miles from here. That was all the further that I was willing to drive and deal with it. So considering like what you actually want your lifestyle to look like, that's actually super important. It's super important when you're making your business decisions as well. Did I know that the boutique was going to be as successful as it was? No, I didn't. I really didn't. But I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. Let's jump off this cliff. So I did it. All right, number 2. I completely ignored online sales. I completely ignored them in favor of getting much more foot traffic and selling to the same customers through email. Now, I know that this is probably the most unpopular thing that I could say because there's such a push online. People want advertisers. They're selling to you how to have a successful boutique online. That's great. It's not my area of expertise. I tried it for a few years and I realized this is really not comparable to what happened inside my boutique. What I did, okay, when I opened up my online shop, when I opened up my brick and mortar location, the people just started to come. They just started to come without much effort on my part, without much advertising on my part. I just had to be there. You know what I'm saying? I just had to be there on the days that I was open and they just trickled in. It's not the same when you open up an online shop. It's a completely different animal, all right? And I'm just gonna leave it at that. Number 3, I acted like myself, okay? When people would come into my shop, there's this really fun relationship that you can sort of establish with your customers because it's not always about making that sale, right? Sometimes people just come in and they just want to talk and you have to just sift through all of that as a business owner. However, I would find that people would come in and they would tell me these crazy things that were happening in their lives every once in a while. And one thing about me that's a huge part of my life is that I love God. I love Him. And it just breaks my heart when people are dealing with like difficult things. And so I would just say, you know what? I'm really sorry that you're going through this. Can I pray for you? Can I pray for you? Is there anything that I can do to help you with this? I would especially love to pray. Can I do that? Sometimes people would say yes. I don't know that anybody ever said no to me for that because I genuinely like, please let me help in this small way. And I would grab their hands, say, God, help them in this situation, whatever the situation that they had going on. That was a part of how I did life with my friends. And so I brought that into my business, like without thinking. That wasn't planned. I didn't talk about Jesus all the time. I didn't talk about God all the time, but that's one example of how I chose to be myself in that business. Okay. And so you can also break the mold in your industry, right? Or in your boutique by acting like your best self. Otherwise, it's always going to feel like work to you if you don't. Okay. Next, be willing to sell wherever. In the off season, we would have leftover merchandise and I had to figure out a way to sell it so that I wasn't stuck with all of his stuff. So I would have these parties in my mother-in-law's kitchen, which is where I lived at the time. And I would, bring the displays over, bring the mannequins, set up these things, bake everybody brownies, invite them over, my friends and the church ladies and whoever other people that I knew in my tiny little town. And I would invite them over and we would sell maybe a few $100s worth of stuff, okay? That's where I started. That was the first season. I'm pretty sure we did that the first season, maybe the second season as well. Did a few shows like that just to get some money in the account. Okay, I was willing to do that rather than just sitting on that merchandise going, oh, just stressing over it. I just went for it and I made it fun and it was awesome for everybody. Next, this is the last thing and the most important thing. I actually opened. I know that's a no-brainer, But people get hung up on, I'm going to do this in a couple of years. I'm, maybe going to do this if there's a location that's available in the future, and they'll do all the research and they'll do all of the planning. But when it comes right down to it, there's such a fear of maybe failure. Some people fear success. Some people fear failure. There's such a fear that comes on us going, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm out all of this money? Listen, I have had locations, all right? I have had businesses where I lost 30, 40 grand in just a few months. I've had that happen to me, and I learned a really expensive, valuable lesson from that. However, if you never actually open, then you cannot have a successful boutique. Can you hear me? Can you feel me right now? You have to actually start. And rather than, my best advice when people come into this living room with me and I coach them, I always want to find out, what are the resources that you have right now? Some people have corresponding businesses that they're already running. I'm like, cool, let's set up a boutique right inside of that business and let's see how it does, because you already have traffic that's coming through there. And they're like, no, I can't do that. And I'm like, oh yes, you absolutely can do that. You absolutely can do that. And so let's go ahead and try that. Or maybe we start off in, like I did in my mother-in-law's kitchen. Maybe you start off in your mother-in-law's kitchen. Maybe you start off in your own living room and just get a few packs, just get a few small orders, invite your friends over and start selling to them. Okay, that is how you actually start a business, rather than this super glamorous, I'm gonna open up a brick and mortar location. Most people don't start off there. It's something that they end up working up to. Okay, those are 5 unpopular things I did to become a successful boutique owner. Good luck to you.